All right, everybody, it's been a really exciting couple of days. Oh, boy. Spend so much time. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. You spend so much time working on sports programming, and sometimes you don't actually really get the chance to kind of see what's been going on with some of the games because you spend so much time working on your own crap. And full disclosure here, I am a Syracuse Orange fan, so I am genetically programmed to hate Duke. That is the fan part of me. And that's just sort of the way it's supposed to go. That having been said, the athlete part of me does have to give credit where credit's due. I am, after all, working on a television show that is supposed to kind of encourage people to get into sports. So at the same time, I have to give credit where credit's due. So to some degree, I feel a bit bad, not as a fan, but as an athlete for Duke not making it basically not winning the championship. So I have to give the Fighting Irish credit. Apparently they won 13-9 in the NCAA championship. So they basically took it for men's lacrosse. So I have to give the Fighting Irish a big round of applause here. This is actually their first, I believe, this is their very first NCAA championship win. So that is huge. That is absolutely huge. And let's be honest here. Duke, Syracuse, D1 lacrosse, they're not exactly suffering. Both of these teams have a pretty good history in terms of lacrosse, and they have a decent history with basketball too, although, to be honest, Syracuse didn't exactly fare as well as I would have liked for basketball this year. But anyway, we're not talking about lacrosse. We are talking about we're not talking about basketball, I should say. We're talking about lacrosse. So be that as it may, good on Notre Dame for winning that one. So good on you. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I'd been meaning to do this for a while, and eventually I'm going to do this with video and probably bring Emily on because Emily is a goalie. So I thought it might be interesting to have these sort of live back and forth where we kind of pick a topic and talk about some of the interesting things that are happening in sports, and then we can pick it apart. In hockey, Emily was actually pretty high up there. She would have been just maybe one level below the equivalent of the AHL. So she wasn't exactly just a shinny player goalie. She was quite good, and she also trained under Dan Tessier of the Ottawa 67s. There was a Memorial Cup win with the OHL, AHL, CHL, that sort of level. And she also trained under Rick Hines, who was the goalie for the St. Louis Blues. And not the school, although she did go to the goalie school, but she trained directly under Rick Hines. So it's always interesting to get some insight from her in terms of hockey and other related sports. So we're hoping to kind of do a little bit more of this to kind of bump things up for the YouTube channel, but I did want to kind of jump on and start at least audio only, like a radio show, just to kind of get the ball rolling. So I hope to do these with some degree of semi-regularity, in addition to the episodes of GONITRO that show up every 3:30 or 4:30 p.m., depending on time zone, wherever you are, every week on, like I said, on the Thursday. So one of the things that I wanted to kind of pimp right now is I wanted to pimp some exciting new developments for GONITRO. So as some of you may be aware, although I haven't pushed it as hard as I should, and I do intend to kind of, bang on about that a bit because we've been so busy trying to get it ready that I haven't really had the chance to sort of talk about it. But GONITRO has been picked up by NBC Sports, and it is going to start airing on NBC Sports on June 5th. So this is super exciting. We're really pumped. We've been working really, really hard with NBC to get the show up and running, and we've got pretty much 65 episodes now. So there's a lot of episodes, and we have some exciting new things coming up. So we've been actually working on trying to get the NBC deals to bed for a while now. So it's really exciting that it's finally coming up. A little nerve-wracking, right? Because NBC Sports is nothing to sniff at. It's a big network. So we're really excited to be able to work with our friends at NBC to be able to bring GONITRO all across the United States. We already do, but particularly with our friends at NBC. So this gives us a whole huge new audience, and we're extremely excited about it. And it's going to start running on a bunch of the NBC sports stations. It's also going to be available in Los Angeles very, very soon. But to start with, my understanding is it's going to start running on NBC Philly. So if you're a Flyers fan and you happen to have NBC Sports, which you probably do, you'll get to see our show. I don't know exactly what time it's going to air yet, but I do know it's going to air on June 5th. And as soon as I have more information, I am going to go into that. And I'll probably do another one of these, and then maybe Emily and I can do a little Q&A about it. And there's some other shows that we're doing, so that's something I'm really excited about. The other thing that I wanted to ask you, if you have not already, please do consider subscribing. It really does help a lot, and it allows us to create more content. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, you know what, if you have a TV show, then why do you need it? But YouTube, all of that stuff really kind of informs. We're not a huge, giant, bazillion-dollar company. We are we're an independent production company that happens to get to do all these cool TV shows, but we own all of our shows. We're not under the gun for any huge corporation or anything like that. We just are people that love sports, and we are fortunate enough to be able to get to do this every day and work on sports and bring you exciting sports content every day and other types of content. So please, 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 if you have not already, hit that subscribe button. Once again, YouTube is on one of their little purges. I've noticed everybody seems to be getting hit. I noticed that Graham Bensinger lost like 50,000 subscribers, and we've only lost probably 40 or 50. So I guess it could be a lot worse. But, every subscriber does help, and every subscriber does count. And on top of that, in addition to GONITRO and in addition to the other programming, we also donate a lot of our broadcast resources to really, really good amateur sports, because this is the future of sports. These are tomorrow's Olympians, tomorrow's NHLers, tomorrow's MLBers, tomorrow's superstars. So one of the things that we do here is wherever we can, we try to do really, really slickly produced ESPN style broadcasts of really high-level amateur sports that you ordinarily would not get to see. So this is one of the things that we've been doing to start with New Line Boxing, with our underground boxing. We are in the process of doing this content in English and French, and we hope to be able to do so in Spanish sooner rather than later. But again, if you would consider, don't even consider, just hit that subscribe button right now. Hit that subscribe. If you're listening right now, absolutely hit that subscribe button. Makes a huge, huge difference. So that was one of the things that I wanted to plug. Please, please, please do subscribe. It does make a huge, huge difference. So anyway, I wanted to go and prattle on a little bit more about Notre Dame's win against Duke. And again, I guess you can, if you want to, if you're cynical, I suppose you could say, well, you're a Syracuse Orange fan. Of course, you're going to want to pummel Duke, which is true, but this is as a fan and not an athlete. So I just kind of want to give a little bit of credit where credit is due. And I think a little bit of background is pertinent here. As I said before, Syracuse and Duke are men's lacrosse team, men's and women's. These are both teams that don't really need a whole lot of help in terms of their background. These are top-level D1 teams. They do an excellent job, and they typically at least get to sort of the Sweet 16 for the most part. I mean, every so often one of them will choke and they won't make it for various reasons. This is both with basketball and lacrosse. This is with both sports. I would say that Duke and Syracuse in general are lacrosse and basketball dominated schools. And I think that anybody that's really paying attention and is really not wanting to split hairs would agree that that's fair. Now, that having been said, Duke generally doing quite well. I mean, they've actually Duke. This is not the first time that that Duke has basically come up against the Irish for title games. Duke actually beat them in 2010, and they beat them in 2014, and I remember them quite well. I think that was at the M&T Bank Stadium, which was actually in Baltimore. And Notre Dame had been, well, actually, according to the Baltimore Sun, they'd said that Notre Dame had been 1-5 against the Blue Devils in the NCAA tournament, with the last victory occurring in the first round in 1995. So that's a little while ago. Just to give you an idea here, and I realize I'm dating myself here. 1995, I was 10. Okay, I was 10. That was a while ago. And the last time my Syracuse, as a basketball fan, the last time they took a championship, that was in 2003. Now, in fairness, they've gotten close. There's been a lot of stuff that's been going on in Syracuse in the last couple of years. I mean, obviously, Boeheim has taken a retirement that I suspect he didn't necessarily fully want to take. I mean, there's some back and forth. I mean, I don't know. I don't know Coach Boeheim. I can't get in his head. There's also been obviously some controversy over Coach Q, and over, well, you can Google it, but and Coach Q is somebody that we have interviewed with GONITRO. In fact, we did. So there's a lot of back and forth over that, and I'm not going to throw my opinion in the hat one way or the other because I just don't have enough information. But what I can tell you is that there's players that feel that some of the stuff he's done was inappropriate, and some of the stuff and did happen and didn't happen. And I mean, I don't know, I wasn't there, but I can tell you that obviously he was the coach at the time that we'd filmed the Syracuse Orange episode with the women's basketball team, and so yeah, so a lot of interesting things happening in Syracuse over the last little while, and I do think it's an excellent program, and I'm a Syracuse fan. In fact, I'm so emblazoned with orange. In the spirit of healthy eating, I am eating Reese peanut butter cups, which is not particularly healthy. But you know what? Neither is eating a 1,200 calorie burger when you're going to watch other people do a sports game. So that is what it is. So yeah. So I mean, this is really kind of interesting. A few other things that I think are sort of interesting is that Notre Dame, as far as I know, they're only the fourth team in the history of D1 to basically win after losing the previous year's tournament, which is they're in sort of interesting company because because in 2008 the same thing happened to Syracuse. They lost. And then they won, and that doesn't really happen very often. That's not typically something that happens very often, and this is something that I think is worth worth pointing out. So it's just, I mean, in and of itself, it's not really anything that has anything to do with anything. It's just sort of interesting, pointless trivia. What does it add to it? Absolutely fucking nothing, but it is interesting. On the topic of upstate New York, just for my own amusement, this is pretty typical of the kind of crap that I saw during my time in upstate New York. So this is kind of interesting. Just for my own amusement, I went to Syracuse.com to see what kind of crazy headlines that were going to pop up. This, by the way, has absolutely nothing to do with sports whatsoever. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So a Walmart customer that was upset with their ATM machine pointed their gun at an employee who tripped and fell. So the police are looking for the person that pointed the gun, and it was a loss prevention officer, so a security person. So anyway, they were taken to Krause. You know what? I'm actually gonna read this. I mean, sometimes the writing on Syracuse.com can be hit or miss. But I will read this article. I actually don't. There's a few people that I know at the Post Standard, and we've had some nice articles written about us. And so anyway, I don't know this journalist Katie O'Toole. I guess she's new or new-ish. All right, so blah, 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 blah. A customer inside a Walmart supercenter was so upset after using an ATM that he pointed a gun at a store employee, Kamloops Police Captain James Nightingale said. That is an awesome name for a police captain, isn't it? Captain James Nightingale. That sounds like some Victorian cop. I mean, this is this is the name of a cop that you would expect to see in a Gilbert and Sullivan musical or operetta or whatever you want to call it. I think this is great. What's your name? My name is Captain James Nightingale. Not his fault. That's his name. I just felt as a footnote that I wanted to make a point to comment on just how cool of a name that is, because it is a very cool name. I love it. I think it's great. Look out, Detective Murdoch. Look out, Detective Murdoch. Okay. The employee, a loss prevention officer, tripped and fell as the man pointed a gun at him, Nightingale said. I suppose it's better than getting shot. So, blah, blah, blah. The ambulance took the Walmart employee to the hospital, and the cops were still looking for him. Apparently, it happened just before 5, and the guy was having a bit of a hard time with the ATM. And he got pissed off and started banging on the machine. That I think we can all relate to, especially these machines that take forever, or they take your money and they crumple it up, especially when you're trying to do a deposit. Anyway, okay. And the security guard noticed the man was upset and asked him to stop beating on the machine. All right, here's the thing. When somebody is angry, and by the way, in a past life, I was actually a licensed security guard for basically about a minute. It was a college job, and I needed a bit of extra money, and you have to be licensed for it, and I had done it. And one of the things that I can tell you, having had to de-escalate some situations, when somebody is already angry and they're already upset and you're trying to diffuse the situation, if somebody is completely trashing, you don't, then yeah, I mean, you kind of have to kind of tell them to knock it off. But the thing is if you start going and acting like a diet cop, and you're looking for an authority complex, you don't tell somebody that's already having a really bad day to calm down and knock something off, okay? This is something that unnecessarily escalates something and creates a higher likelihood of an altercation. And what you really need to do is you want to try and de-escalate it, because what are you trying to do? You're trying to stop a particular behavior, and essentially keep people safe, and you are trying to make sure that people are not doing stuff they're not supposed to. So if somebody's angry and they're already highly agitated, if you turn around and tell them with complete authority to stop doing something, now you're basically, they're going to see you as a power trip. Now you could turn around and argue, oh, well, one of the things that I always like to do is I always like to say, hey, you know what, is there something I can help you with? You seem like you're having a rough go. Is there something wrong? Usually somebody will answer or respond. They'll tell you, or they'll say nothing, but usually what it does is it tends to kind of it sort of distracts somebody from their fury a bit, because it forces them to kind of divert some of their attention away from this sort of singularity of anger, and it forces them to take some of that and address your question. Then you can start to talk them down and say, hey, you know what, these machines are, but then you can maybe ask somebody to stop banging on it. But a lot of the time you don't need to. if somebody's angry and they're banging on a machine, they're not in there because they necessarily want to bang the machine. They have a problem. It's not working or whatever. And usually I find that 9 times out of 10, people just want to feel heard. And I think now again, I'm not saying that what this guy did is okay, but I've been to upstate New York. I've spent a lot of time there, and I suspect that the loss prevention officer, and again, that this might not be the case. Maybe they were really polite. I don't know. But if somebody is angry, you don't go up to somebody when they're already upset and say, hey, stop banging on the machine now. You have now, instead of trying to solve the situation, you're trying to create a power trip. And now you've escalated the situation. So I would say that at least if you turn around and say, hey, you know what? You seem pretty upset. What's going on? I work here. Is there something I can help with? That, as soon as you do that, the probability of de-escalating the situation drops by about half. And this is from personal experience. Anyway, so again, not hugely surprised. The man continued to hit doors as he started to leave the store, and the loss prevention officer continued to ask him to stop. Okay, so what's happening is this guy's now following him and antagonizing him. You do not do this, okay? As soon as you tell somebody not to do something when they're, like, I'm not saying that this person should be doing it, but this is just not the way to handle it. That's when the man pointed at what appeared to be a handgun at the employee. He said, see? There you go. First of all, it's not a bright idea to fuck with people in New York. Syracuse is not a huge city, but it is a tough town. But I would be willing to bet, and again, I've spent a lot of time in upstate New York, okay? I spent a lot of time in upstate New York, and I have a pretty good idea of what makes the town tick. If the guy just turned around, if the loss prevention officer just said, hey, you know what? You seem like you're having a rough go of it. Is there anything I can help with? I would be willing to bet that this would not have happened. I would be willing to bet. I'm sure of it. I mean, maybe the guy would have just turned around and pulled out a gun anyway. I don't, but I suspect that the probability, but nope, the guy had to be Mr. Authority and did not try to de-escalate the situation or try to resolve the situation. He wanted to be Mr. Authority because he's probably making like $7-8 an hour, right? Because, we all know how much Walmart pays their employees, right? And then what did he get? He antagonized the guy and followed him on his way out. And then what happens? The guy points a gun at him. What do you think is going to happen? You know what I mean? I'm not saying there's a big difference between giving into somebody and trying to find a solution to a problem before it becomes a problem. This is something that did not necessarily even need to become a problem. That having been said, pulling out a gun is not a great idea. And the police should be looking after the guy because even though the situation was most likely needlessly escalated to that point, the person that was banging on the ATM machine could have made the decision to not pull out a gun and handle it better. So, consequences or actions have consequences, and this is one of those times. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the guy shouldn't have pulled out a gun. Obviously, that's not really the best way to handle it. But at the same time, I would be willing to bet that if the guy just turned around and said, hey, what's going on, and qualified that, then, I don't think that would have happened. So that's my rant. That's not really sports related. I just ended up going on a bit of a soapbox, and I went on a little bit of a soapbox earlier today. I find that people tend to go. Anyway, back to sports, because we are supposed to be talking to sports. So this is great. Okay, so this is cool. So the Vegas Golden Knights, they're off to the Stanley Cup final, which is great. They're for a new team, they're on fire. They're on fire, man. I mean, this is great. So holy crap. I didn't see this. I actually did not see this game. It'd be interesting to see what Emily has to say about this. That's why we got to have this set up, and we need to do this with video and and we can have everything with sort of a nice sort of live setup, and then people can kind of talk and everything. But yeah, so it was a 6-0 win over the Dallas Stars in Game 6. Wow, 6-0. That's oh man, that would have been. Well, wouldn't exactly be a buzzer beater, I suppose. So I guess, okay, yeah, so in the second period, 9th goal of playoffs on a breakaway. Wow. That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. Oh, this is cool. See, Philly. We're airing in Philly, so, well, not the most flattering photo of this guy, but this is cool. So Nick Nurse is going to be the next coach of the Philly 76ers, and so that's pretty cool. Not surprised that they would want to go after him because, he did win an NBA championship, and he was a Coach of the Year award with Toronto, but that's cool. That's good for him. I'm glad he wound up on his feet. I think it was really shitty that the Toronto Raptors fired him. They fired him in April, I think. And I guess they fired him after they lost to the Chicago Bulls. But I don't know. Toronto, I'm not going to go on too much about Canada, but this kind of passive-aggressive, if you're not perfect all the time, then fuck you, get out. I don't have a lot of patience for that. So I'm glad that Coach Nurse has gone with the 76ers, and then he can basically give Toronto the finger, which is fine by me. Absolutely fine by me. It's kind of fun to kind of go through the news headlines and see what's going on, because oh, this is interesting. What team is this? Kamloops Blazers. Okay, I'm gonna have to talk to Emily about this because I don't know. I didn't even know that Kamloops had an OHL team. That's really weird. I did not know this. Certainly know about the Petes, the Peterborough Petes, but that should be anyway. Blah 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 blah. So, oh, what happened to this guy? So I guess defenseman Kyle Masters, he was hit by the forward for the Peterborough Petes. Ugh, and he fell backwards into the corner boards with less than 7 minutes remaining. Oof. Ouch. Now, I'm not a hockey player. I do enjoy playing lacrosse. I'm not the greatest lacrosse player. I mean, I play sort of pickup lacrosse, but I've given and taken some pretty serious checks in the boards. And and I do Brazilian jiu-jitsu, which is not the same at all, but what is similar about it is you can get yourself pretty banged up and twisted if you end up hitting something wrong, or you end up torquing something wrong, and that's just not, oh man, that's just not that's not a whole lot of fun. I feel bad for the guy. I was never really was a hockey kind of guy, but I got to be honest with you that this is definitely something that in my view is not. Oh man, that's really too bad. But yeah, so I think this is going to be a really interesting week for sports. Interesting week for us too. But yeah, I'll pop on and do some more of these. I want to do these with like a nice little setup and a set and everything. I think that would be cool. So hopefully we'll get to do that sooner rather than later. I need to get a little bit more gear. Might get like a Rodecaster 2 or something like that, so we have headsets and everything, or at least have like these nice arms that I have on my desk, and that would be cool. So yeah. So anyway, that's I think that pretty much does it for now. I've been blathering on for about half an hour now, I suppose. So yeah, so that's it in a nutshell. So I think that'll do for now. So again, whatever you do, if you are in Los Angeles or Philly, do not miss the launch of GONITRO on NBC Sports Philly and NBC California Bay Area and NBC Philly Plus starting on June 5th. And for more information, make sure to go to www.gonitro.tv for more information. And of course, as always, please make sure that you subscribe to this YouTube channel. That subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner, make sure you hit it, that big button. You know that button. You know you want to push it. Push that button. You can do it. Yeah, that button. Press, press, press. Anyway, have a good one, and we will see you sooner rather than later, and at the very least, next time.